Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Creators Room. I'm Danielle Borders, and I'm so excited to have this is our third panel of the series. We are back with another amazing panel about music production, audio engineering, and songwriting. Again, I'm Danielle Borders. I'm the Senior Manager of Arts Education Programming and Performances, and I'll be a moderator for the evening. The Creators Room is an intimate conversation about the journey of creators working behind the scenes in the arts. Most of all, the importance of protecting your artistry and providing tangible resources you can use to jumpstart or reignite your career. On tonight's panel, we have Ebony Smith. Ebony is an award-winning music producer, audio engineer, singer-songwriter based in New York City. She's also the founder and president of Gender Amplified Inc., a nonprofit organization that celebrates and supports women and girls in music production. Ebony holds a master's degree in music technology from NYU and an undergraduate degree from Barnard-Columbia University. She currently works as an audio engineer and producer for Atlantic Records. Welcome, Ebony Smith.
Hello.
Hi, Ebony, how are you?
Doing great.
And up next, we have Stephen Dent. Stephen has been in the music industry since 1994 and was blessed enough to be associated with culture-shifting albums from Sean P. Diddy Combs during his time managing Daddy's House Recording Studio. And he's also Grammy nominated, I must mention. Stephen engineered on Diddy's Victory single and No Way Out, Life After Death, Notorious K.I.M. From that album. And then also one of my favorites is Biggie's I Love the Dough. He also was part of that project. Stephen is also NJPAC hip hop arts and culture teaching artist and mentor for our NJPAC arts ed students. Stephen, come to the virtual stage.
Hello, how was everyone? Hey, Ebony, how you doing?
Hi, how are you, Stephen?
I'm all right.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have, speaking of long writing credentials, we also have another amazing person, Eric Roberson. He is a Grammy Award nominee, singer, songwriter, producer, and of course, a Howard University alum. He continues to break boundaries as an independent artist in an industry dominated by major labels, manufactured sounds, and mainstream radio. Described as the original pioneer of the independent movement in R&B and soul music, Eric has achieved major milestones in his career, from being successful songwriter and producer for notable artists like Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Dwele, Vivian Green, and countless others, to headlining sold-out shows across the country. You may also have heard of his new popular single called Lessons. Welcome, Eric, to the virtual stage. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you. And what's up, Stephen? What's up, Ebony? How y'all doing?
Yes, I'm so glad that you all are here. And also, I want to shout out our attendees. Thank you for coming to the Creators Room. I created this earlier this year when we were still on lockdown and we weren't outside yet. But I do want to continue this virtual experience, since we could touch so many people no matter where we are. And, especially with being at NJPAC is in Newark, New Jersey. And we have Ebony, who is not in tri-state area at the moment, I think. And then we have Stephen and Eric, who are just always busy and traveling. So it's great to see you all here tonight. And we're going to be talking about music production, audio engineering, and of course, songwriting. And I'm anxious for our attendees to get to know you. So let's discuss the first album or song that broke your career and changed you from being a struggling artist to having like production and engineering credits. So Ebony, can you discuss how it was to engineer the Hamilton project and then Cardi B, and how did you build those relationships?
Right, so Hamilton was my first major credit. And Before that, I had been in-house at Atlantic Records. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen and Eric. I had been in-house at Atlantic before that for 2 years, really closer to 3 years, working with all types of artists, Panic at the Disco. I'd worked with a few of their metal artists. I did everything from podcasts to editing radio drops. I did content. I recorded bands. I did everything, and that was 2 years of training. So when Atlantic signed the Hamilton album, I was ready to step in and really work as an engineer on that. And that was really the first project that came through the door. Had a very robust steering team, but small in the sense that everybody had a very specific role. And I was an assistant on that project, but assisting to me some of the greatest in audio engineering and in production, Alex Lackamore, Derek Lee. These are just incredible Broadway producers and engineers, and that was such an experience for me just to learn from them how to make a cast album, but apart from that, how to make a great album. So it was a bit of the training wheels were off at that point.
Love it.
And how about Stephen and Eric? How did you, what was the song that broke your career or album?
Steven, you can go first. I'm trying to still figure out what it was.
I
I'm still struggling. I don't
understand. My career has been broken yet, so I have no idea.
No, and I feel like I can speak for Steven. There was as well as Ebony. We have our head down working for so long that eventually you kind of look up and you go,
"Yeah,
oh, I'm kind of cool. I might be all right now." And I can really keep 100 because as a songwriter, whatever, you're unemployed after every gig, after every set. When you walk out of that studio, you're working to get the next one. So even if you worked on a big record, that big record comes out, it's like, all right, what's next? So you had big years followed by quiet years. So even once I had a big year, I don't know if I was ever like, I'm on now, because you got to stay hustling to make sure you wouldn't have that next quiet year. And it really wasn't till I probably won't even say one of the big records and nothing like that. Obviously, I think maybe Emotional Roller Coaster with Vivian Green might have been like, that's a big record.
That's a classic one.
But I think like working like on like Charlie Wilson or Will Downing's album, where like I'm a fan, I'm like one of my heroes. Like getting a chance like that was, which the record might not have did very well. It wasn't a single and nothing like that, but it was validating. It might have been more, that was something I could tell my auntie about, and she'd be like, "Oh, I know him." Might have been a little more, but I think if I'm keeping it really 100, probably first 15 years, my head was just down. I probably never even paid attention to anything to even think that I was on. If I'm really being honest, I don't know if there was ever a song that I looked at like victory, let's party. It was just more like
just keep it moving.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's keep working.
Yeah, I was always taught that you should always leave a gig with another book gig. So you probably had that kind of mentality to, did this one, linked up with this other artist, and now you're just like, keep it moving.
Yeah, I want to answer for you, Steven. I don't know if you have a song that you.
No, I would say my, exactly what I was going to say is that I don't know. I mean, I'm still looking for that song, you know what I mean? And just like Ebony, I've worked behind or assisted some great engineers, Bob Rosa, Aja Key, Prince Charles Alexander, Tony Maserati, Paul Logus. I mean, it could go on and on and on and on. And I think for me, making it is when they accepted me as one of their own. And I felt like a brotherhood. I felt that brotherhood. Kevin Thomas was one of my mentors, and Ron Banks. So I can tell you exactly when it was. I was at AES show one year in New York, and I walked out the door and I saw this guy just looking at me. I'm like, yo, what's wrong with this dude? And he said, I know who you are. I'm like,
Oh.
Okay, cool. It just says right here on my name tag. He said, no, you're Stephen Dent. And you're at daddy's house. I'm like, how did you know all of that? And it was Ron Banks telling me that. Ron Banks was my mentor's mentor.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
And he said, I've been watching you keep up the good work. So that kind of said, oh, wait a minute. I feel kind of good about that. So
Yeah.
I would say at that moment, I felt like I was accepted as one of the guys, or one of not even the guys, just in that club, because I knew just as good of female engineers like Ebony that were one
Mhm.
point that taught me a lot of stuff also. It's just that these guys grabbed me. Bob Rosa put me in a headlock to make me learn the SSL console, so that when I got to Bad Boy, I walked in the door. Can you run an SSL? Yeah. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's how yeah, that's when it was, when Ron Banks knew my name.
That's pretty dope. And then also, thank you for mentioning like you were inspired by female audio engineers. And with myself, with working with a lot of like production and producers and engineers, I've never really saw a lot of female audio engineers. So Ebony, how was that experience? Like, when did you realize like, okay, engineering is what I want to do? And how was your journey trying, from assistant engineer to, you got a job at Atlantic Records? So one of the questions that Tiffany Cummings put is, how did you land that job at Atlantic Records?
Okay, so there are a couple questions in there. The first one is, when did I know? Right, so that was college. I was probably 19, 18 years old. I was a musician, but I knew I didn't want to be a singer or a musician. So songwriting really wasn't my thing. I was kind of really into electronics and things like that. And in college, I got a campus job as an events specialist, which allowed me to do audio and sound for live events on campus. And I kept that job for 4 years. And it was the only work study job that I wanted, because everything else was like, be a hallway monitor, be in the library, do front desk operations. I was like, no, not doing any of that. The audio job was the one job. And once I started getting into that, microphones and cables and adapters, I started understanding just how gendered audio is. Right. So if you are, for example, looking for a certain type of cable, cables are spoken of in terms of male and female genders. A lot of people don't know that about audio, but the terminations are gendered. And so I started looking at that. I also started looking around because I went to an all-girls college. So I was around some of the smartest women every single day. But when I looked at the records that I admired, I didn't see any women making them. And that seemed odd, because I was like, I am around smart women every day. Like my audio team that I was on was all women, all girls. Our trainers and our supervisors were women, and they were badass. So I was just kind of like, okay, well, something seems a little off, but maybe if I do a little looking around, I'll find those women somewhere. And that's exactly what happened. I was on campus living in my own little world. And then I started researching in New York City. You can find anything. I just got on the internet, started researching women who produce. And I came across these grassroots organizations like SheJ.net and Femix.com. This is very early, pre-YouTube. Now you can just find anything on Instagram or YouTube. This was pre all of that in the early 2000s. And I was finding these great communities, and they were hosting DJ battles and beat battles. And I would go down to SOBs and go to places in Brooklyn and find these communities of women that were credited on some of the biggest records. I found DJ Jazzy Joyce and Susan Rogers and, so many other incredible women in music production pre the Honey Dark. These artists became my aunties, really. And that's when I knew, one of the moments when I knew, okay, so this art form is for women. there is a community, whether it's underground or above ground, it's in existence. And I can contribute to that conversation as a practitioner of audio and production, but also as a sister, as a community organizer. So that's when I knew. Now, the next question was music production in Atlantic Records. So that was just a lot of hustle and a little bit of talent, to be completely frank with you. I was out of grad school and I'd made the decision by that time. I got my master's at NYU and I was like, okay, this is all I'm doing. I don't have a plan B. So I'm either gonna go for broke or I'm gonna like try to go to law school or something. And I wasn't about to do that because that wasn't in my heart. And all I have in life is my instincts and my heart. You know, what's in my heart, I just always follow that route. So I was in New York City doing 4 jobs, had 4 jobs at the time, you know, had a roommate, doing the whole hustle thing. I was teaching classes at the 92nd Street Y and then teaching kids music classes at the YMCA and then working some random telemarketing job and then like doing some, you know, so I had like 10 jobs, bartending, I was babysitting, I was, you know, and I was like, I gotta find a way to turn all these jobs into one job, and it's gotta be a job within my specialization. So I just started looking at opportunities. I ended up at a DJ school that was closer to what I wanted to be doing. I was like able to learn DJing on the job, and I learned Ableton and Pro Tools, a lot of audio on the job. I met a lot of really cool artists on that job. And then I was like, okay, this is closer, but this is not quite there. And so while I was at the job, I started looking for opportunities at labels, and I came across this job at Atlantic and applied for it, because you got to do that first, right? You know, that's the step that people don't think, you know, do the basic thing first, apply online. If it's online, apply. And then after that, I emailed everybody I knew at Warner Music Group, which was the parent company of Atlantic Records. The one person I knew was like, I can't help you. I was like, but you just did, because I got your, say it again.
I did the same thing for that job. I'm like,
right, you know,
hook me up. Come
hey,
on,
exactly. Hello, like, can you help me? And the one person I knew at Warner Music Group was like, I can't help you. And I was like, you just did, because you gave me email syntax, and that's all I needed. So I plugged in every executive's name I knew into that email syntax and emailed 50 people at Atlantic. The one person that got back to me was the person I hired.
Wow.
So just a little street smart, a
amazing.
lot of resilience, refusing to not quit. Sorry about this freaking phone. I thought I put it on silent. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's the journey and the story behind all of that.
Mm-hmm. And what college, all female college, did you go to?
It's called Barnard College.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Barnard, uptown in the Upper West Side.
Right, got it. Thank you.
Well,
And Eric, how was your experience with, like, especially with like audio engineering? So I was always curious about like the relationships that you have with, you know, just being in the studio and you don't necessarily know the artist just yet. How do you build that relationship as an audio engineer and a producer, and also a songwriter? Because most of the time you're writing music for someone that you don't necessarily know. So how is that process?
Well, you know, I think it's first you try to learn as much of it as you possibly can. So I was never one that when I recorded a song, then I just left and was playing pool in the lobby while somebody was mixing the record. I was always kind of looking, hey, what is that? You know, just so I have a understanding of trying to be able to make my stuff presentable as well. You know, and that's one of the things I think is always a little lost. It is always good to delegate it to a professional to mix it, but you should kind of have some kind of understanding of how to have it presentable at all times, you know? And there's a great relationship between the songwriter and the audio engineer, because they're taking your baby, you know, and they're pretty much cleaning it up, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I know they already know we wrestle with demoitis, and, you know, we've heard it a certain way for so long that even if the snare was blazingly hot, it's like, but what happened to the snare now? And it's like, well, now it's in the correct place now. No, but I liked it blazingly hot. And it was just more the demoitis really that you got used to it. But for me, it's always about just trying to make everybody comfortable in finding that magic, and even, I believe the audio engineers have a big job because they now have to clean things up, but yet make sure they leave the magic in there. And a lot of times the magic is the imagination. So some flaws, some production choices, some energy is really imagined, especially in hip hop. You think of it where like a sample that is barely heard is leaving enough there to kind of fill in the blanks. And then it gets cleaned up and it's like, it's like exposed almost, but for me, it's always, if you bring an artist in, my first goal is to get them comfortable. I'm trying to write a song that gets them in the room, and then I'm trying to write a song about their life. So the first thing I'm doing is now I want to get to know you, so that once we finish this song, I'm staying in here because now I'm writing about you, and I think everything is about that. I think, you're trying to find that right synergy with everything to all line up. And sometimes it doesn't line up all the time, sometimes the artist doesn't match with the song, or sometimes the engineer might mix it in a different way than what you kind of prefer. So when you do find the right person, I kind of work with around 2 or 3 different mix engineers, and I call them depending on what I'm actually looking for. A lot of them might have a specialty. If I know this is a beautiful sensual ballad, I know exactly who I'm calling. But if I know I'm trying to knock somebody's heads off, I know who I'm calling. And they both can do the job, but at the same time, I know where everybody's specialty is. And that's probably the same for me. If they're looking for a certain type of song, I'm probably getting called for that, even though I could probably do other things. But the goal is really make somebody comfortable so they can show their magic. And I think they, the audio engineers do the same thing for me. It's like, you got to give them some patience and grace, right? Because it's not so simple as just turning the kick up. We got to give it its own real estate, and everything has to coexist. And so it's not an impatient process. It's like, trust that they're going to get to the final area. In the first hour, it might not sound right. Knowing that final hours, the magic will be there. So, I think through the years of me being in the studio, I think I learned to just trust and win over people's trust as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Trust. Stephen, how was your experience just being in the studio for No Way Out or even Life After Death? And did you realize like it was a special moment when you were recording, or did you realize how big of a moment it was after the album was completed?
I don't think in the moment. I never thought of it like that. I mean, I was just happy to have work, and then happy to be in the realm of such artists and producers and writers and executives and everything that was there for that project. I mean, if you look at that project has, almost everybody in the industry worked on it. So at one point I got to meet a lot of people, and it's no matter how much talent you have, it's still a people oriented business. So once you can, if you have a personality that's not disrespectful, and you become an asset to someone, then you get more work. From that album, I think I got 5 more years of work just from being an assistant on most of those songs, and then tracking as a recording the other songs, mixing interludes and things like that. So when people see that light, they say, oh, okay, well, you're here with them. Doesn't mean I was a good engineer at all, because when I listened to those things I did, I'm like, Jesus, that was terrible. But it just puts you in a position where others see you, and then they say, well, if you're good enough for them, you can work for me, and things like that. And because of that, I was given an opportunity to learn and to get better. And I'm learning today. So, I had a client earlier today. I learned something new from him. I'm like, okay, cool. So, but I don't think I knew until, I think when you go on tour and you see the actual show, like when I saw the show of the music that I had made, I said, okay, that's different. You know what I mean? Because I'm used to these 4 walls with these 2 big speakers. Now I have pyro going, I have lights going, I have stuff falling from the ceiling, like people jumping off the stage. So you get to see that in real time. And then that was probably the first time I ever enjoyed the music, was the first. And it was because normally at a tour, you know, you could be doing something else. You're busy doing something, you know, but it was a show in DC. My wife, who was my fiance at the time, we went to a show, and I sat there and like, wow, this is actually a good show, you know. And I said, wait a minute, I did that song. Oh, wait a minute, I did that song. Oh, wait a minute, I did that. Oh, okay. Now I get
So
it.
was that your reaction when like Bad Boy went on tour again not too long ago, a few years ago?
Yeah.
Like 2017, 18?
Yeah.
So you had to like relive that.
Yeah, the reunion. Yep, the reunion tour was just it almost, I'm not gonna say that. It brought me back to a place that I loved. You know what I mean? Just being backstage with, you know, from Little C's, Little Kim, Buster, that's my brother, Stevie J, you know, just seeing Total, my girls, 112, my brothers, like just seeing that Puff, and even Bentley, you know, Farnsworth Bentley was back, Eric was back there, so
the whole team was back together.
Yeah, it was just, and you know, I took some video at the after show party in the stadium, and it was just like we never stopped, and it was just one of those feelings that, yo, we could do this forever. Then I had to get up and go to work the next morning. And I was like, oh my God, why did I stay out there so late? And but when you're doing it, I did not know. Now I knew Victory was special because
one of my favorite songs.
The song, and I remember it was one of Biggie's favorites. You know, he loved his verse on that record, and also All About the Benjamins. The first time you hear that, it was hold up.
First of all, so I apologize because this whole thing is about to shift now. I have a whole interview about Biggie and Busta. So I got 85,000. It's like, no, but you're right. It's amazing. Like Benjamin Records, if you were in the room when that record was being done.
I was recording it. I was pushing play and record.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It was just one of those records. As soon as you hear it, the first time I heard the beat, you know, you get the ugly face, like, oh, what is that? And then when you hear the Locks verse, when Styles P is not on that record, and that's because when Puff walked in the room, his face, when you know Puff, you know that face, and he just looking around, and he looked back at Harv, and he looked at E-Dot, and he said he walked right over to the music and turned it down and said, I don't know who was on that first verse. He'll be mad at me. Exact words. And Styles P was off that record. And
oh wow!
If you heard, oh my God, it's so much that I wish they would release. I wish they would release the original record with.
Do you have it? Can I hear it?
Hey, holla.
Put it like this: we all made work dats.
That is so
all
good.
made work dats. So.
And if I jump in just in one thing also, you know, the interesting thing is, and I always got to give him credit. Tommy Davidson said this, and it's always amazing. Said the only person who knows what works is God. You know, so, you know, oftentimes we're trying to judge in the studio whether something's going to be a hit. Many times I thought something was going to change the world, and it was just Cricket Central after it. And then there's songs that you're willing to throw away because you think nobody's going to like the song, and that's the one. That's the one. You know,
the first track I ever sold, very first track I ever sold was something that took me absolutely 5 minutes to make. And it was a song I skipped 3 times. And then they kept saying, no, go back. I'm like, what are you talking about? Go back. And I skipped it, going both ways. Then when I played it, they said, that's it.
That's the one.
And it ended up being a song called Little Things by this artist, Marissa England from England. It was just like, that was the first production, the first music I had ever sold in the music industry. And it was something I would never play for anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So you got to get out of the way of yourself. You just got to, follow it. You got to follow the process. If an idea popped in your head, you got to complete it, because that may be the one. That may be the one. But if you get into the moment of like, I don't know if this is as good as what I did yesterday or whatever. You get in the way of it. Where really the end of the day is a good Benjamin's is a separate situation, right? Like it's a separate situation. I think you're in Benjamin, you're in it. You think oh, this is going to happen, but a lot of times there's records that you know you're in there, you're already popping bottles. You're like this is it, and it's not. But then the same way, it's the other way around. That little 2-second idea you did could be the one. So really just stick it out and finish it because you never know.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Ebony, I know that you assisted on Cardi B's first album. When you realized you had that opportunity, were you like a little taken aback or were you excited for it? Because like Cardi is a big personality, so I can't even imagine like how it is to be in a studio with her. And then also plus the, you know, the hype around her, and then that's her big, you know, debut. So how was that experience?
I think the interesting thing about being in-house at a label is you see the artists long before they're stars.
Great
You know,
point.
and it's really good because you realize just how human everyone is. And as an engineer, the artists are depending on you to demystify the technical process for them. You know, you should be guiding them through a world that they really don't know anything about in a very seamless way that, you know, to Eric's point earlier, that establishes trust and establishes a sense of comfort. So that's always my first priority, is the quality of service that I'm providing as an engineer. Am I making it so that the artist doesn't have to worry about anything technical, right? I'm so worried about my headphone mix. No, I don't have as much time to be worried about being starstruck because I'm really trying to get it right. But as far as Cardi's record is concerned, I had worked with her many times before. And actually, she didn't even show up at the studio that day. There was a little bit of a kind of like urban legend. I can't really say where she was, but she was supposed to be in the studio. So I ended up actually working with Ku Carell, who was flown in to put the finishing touch on I Like It. And so we spent that time just kind of working through the mixes and the samples and making sure the record was lining up in the way that it needed to on the multi-track. So that was my contribution on that particular record. And I don't think folks understand just how painstaking post-production is. Like once all the audio material has been recorded, just how much has to happen post that, post the initial idea, once you get all the instrumentation and all the vocals. I mean, these sessions are monstrous. And you're responsible for making sure everything stays organized and the final mix sounds radio ready out of the gate. Yeah, but as far as like my headspace, it was another day at the office.
Right. And I have a question from one of our attendees, Xenia. For Ebony, what advice can you give for a female artist and songwriter wanting to learn how to produce? Is it better to self-teach or find a school or place to study?
Okay, I know we got some Berkeley faculty, and I've done
speak your truth.
Quite a bit at Berkeley. I'm always up in Boston at Berkeley, and it's a fantastic program that they have up there. But I have to say that, you know, school is expensive, and I am someone who did graduate school, and you really have to, if you want to go that route, I would never discourage you, but you need to be planning out how you want to pay yourself post that before you even apply. I mean, and really think it out. You know, if it say just to keep the math easy, it's going to take you $100,000 to do your graduate school or undergraduate or whatever. You should have a 5-year plan in place that starts before you get out of school. You know, because your loans don't accrue interest until so many years after school. So you need to have a plan, because if you're going to invest in yourself in that way, you want to make sure that you can make an equitable living for yourself post-grad. So I'm not going to discourage you, but have a plan. Really sit down with somebody and say, okay, this is how much money I need to be making every year. Therefore, these are the type of jobs I'm going to be looking for. If my dream is to make records and be the next Pharrell, okay, cool. But what's gonna help pay the bills while you're chasing that? Are you gonna do podcasting work on the side? Are you gonna set up a home studio and record artists by the hour? Just have a plan, right? If you're gonna go the school route. I say I did both, right? Because I was in school, but I also just got started, because nothing is gonna teach you how to make records. You make records on the ground. No class is going to teach you that. You have to learn by trial and error. And as far as making popular music is concerned, that blows in the wind. And the rules of popular music are not necessarily taught in classes, and the trends of popular music are certainly not taught in classes. You do better just YouTubing that. Like, what's the hottest 808s? Like, what are the hottest snares? Like, it's YouTube channels and Instagram and TikTok accounts that would teach you more, so you have to understand what you're trying to learn. What are you trying to learn? Are you trying to learn traditional chamber music, composition and music production, Tonmeister composition, and maybe school is the route, so the question is figure out what you're trying to learn. That's the second thing I would say. And what resources are out there for you to just go ahead and get started. Buy some equipment, just start tinkering around. You can come across a copy of Logic and a copy of FL Studio and a copy of Ableton pretty inexpensively. If you have a laptop and some headphones, that's enough to get going these days. So I would say just start. If you haven't started today, if you really want to do it, but you haven't started, just start. Just start doing it. And once you are definitive and make a decision, the universe, I think, typically will conspire to support you, and you'll find the right path to go along to come into the additional resources that you need. But that's the nexus of the advice I would give on you.
I just want to say I could listen to Ebony talk all day. First of all, just her tone, but then the education behind it.
Thank you.
And I'm not playing her in Scrabble either, because she got some good words.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. But if I jump in, when she mentioned Berkeley, I do teach at Berkeley, and really at the end of the day, if we look at the success stories, we have friends who didn't even graduate high school who are making careers in music business, and we have people who graduated from Berkeley and people who graduated high school and didn't go to college. But you're right, you have to start, and you have to go. And guess what? No matter what, if you graduated from Berkeley or you didn't go to school and you're about to dive into this, you got to jump into the fire. You got to, even a Berkeley, I taught yesterday, and I had a student who was in the songwriting department who learned production online, not in class. Now his songwriting has improved from his classes at Berkeley, but he didn't major in production. He was like, "Yeah, all the stuff I'm doing in production, I learned, hands-on with other classmates, off campus, and what I just found, like just reading up on YouTube and learning and different stuff." So yeah, every aspect, just learn in every way you can, network every way you can, get known, and put yourself in the fire to see where you rank. And then what you need to improve and strengthen yourself, and then return back again until you get that door knocked down. So I'm right there with you.
Yes, I love that we have professors here. We have, Ebony and Stephen, who are mentors, continuously providing our young students with great knowledge about, producing and things like that. Tiffany Cummings asks, what advice will you give a college senior graduating with music production degree with interest in producing beats for artists and film scoring? So I know film scoring is a little different in television. I know Eric and Steven both are in the process of doing TV stuff. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I'll jump in and just copy real quick. The main thing about school is the networking opportunity. And it'll be a travesty to graduate whatever college you're at without having some kind of working energy with all of the producers, all of the scorers there, it's going to hedge your bet like of success a little bit further. Literally, I went to college 85 years ago, and all of just my freshman year, the musicians, producers, songwriters I met my freshman year, the first 2 weeks walking in there with a keyboard under my underarm, I still under my arm, not under my underarm. Anyway, I still work with them to this day, still to this day, you know. And then when you just run off who had what successes and things of that nature, so I start there, get in the history of networking. A lot of my success in songwriting came from writing with friends while we were trying to get the big records. You want to come over and record something? Sure. And then, oh wow, you got a record deal? Oh wow, you know. So, you know, first look to the left and right before you leave that school. Everyone in there is dreaming. Everyone in there has the same kind of goals with you. It's not a thing of like, oh, I don't want them to get it because it holds me back. If they go to LA and they get it popping, if you have a synergy with them, guess what? You're going there as well, and vice versa. You know, you may open doors for somebody may open doors for you. So the first thing before you do is really realizing that the magic of most schools, even Berkeley, even Howard, is what's happening in those dorm rooms, what's happening in the conversations and the fellowship and how we're pushing each other. You know, and teachers, yeah, sure, we guide and cultivate that, but that's the magic. So I would make sure that as you're graduating, you're leaving with like, hey, let's all make sure we got our parachutes. We all jumping out together, you know. That would be the first part I would tell them.
And that reminds me of like Little Brother, how like they all met in college, and so they, you know, Ninth Wonder was the producer, and then they had the two rappers, Fonte and Pooh. So it makes sense to build your own collective and always network. I feel like an intern as well. I had that experience where I was interning for a BMI, and that led to other opportunities as well. And we have another attendee, Kwamira, who asks, when songwriting, do you feel the pressures of staying current with today's sound? How do you go about making good music while staying current?
I live more near farmland than in where it's popping. So I think you need to keep your ear on what's happening currently from an enjoyment standpoint, so that you don't get maybe too far off. It depends on what you're competing with. If you're really taking those meetings and you're trying to compete, if you're submitting stuff to Summer Walker, you need to know what her style is, what her last album sounded like. You know what I mean? You need to have some idea, but at the same time, you need to come in with something different too. I don't know if you walk in there with just a copycat of what, then she should have just used the last producer, you know. But if you can bring something different, so yeah, keep your ear to it, but also keep enough distance where you can stay genuine. The natural idea that you have in your spirit, in your head, you can really chase that and not have somebody kind of direct you. You know what you need to sound like. You need to sound like that. I'm sure Ebony, as well as Dent, can tell you there's several moments where something happened musically and it changed the culture of everything that happened after that. I think of Timbaland when he first did like the syncopated drums. I remember being in the studio and how everyone was like, try it, you know, and it's like everyone went to it. So you want to be that, you know what I'm saying? You want to dictate the change rather than, you know, be the beneficiary of the change. You know, it's going to happen all across the board, but I'm not necessarily a fan of like, that was nice, let me try that. You know, it's not a big fan of that too much, you know, but yet at the same time, some people are going to have, and we just keep it real 100, have a career by mimicking others. And then some people are going to have a career by pushing the envelope and trying different things. I prefer to be the latter.
I have to agree with that so much. I think what sets a lot of producers apart is musicality.
Yes.
You know, because beats, and when I say beats, I'm specifically talking about drum production and groove production. That changes with the wind, you know. We're not using the drums from the Benjamins anymore, but that record still kills. And part of the reason that record still kills is because of the musicality of it. Even though it's sample chop, Samples are chopped in such a musical way. You know, what they chose to do with that sample, and it's drawing from an era where musicality was the only way to get in the music business. So I think the genius of a lot of those bad boy records is they really, and it was frowned upon at the time, but they really used the musicality of the 70s and the 80s and updated it. Just what Puff said in the song, you know, took hits from the 80s, but they don't sound so crazy. But the only difference was the drums and the rapping on top. So I think that really kind of wraps a bow around what Eric was saying, in the sense that, you know, we're not just going to copy songs from the past. We're going to do the 2.0 version. Whatever you're doing, try to figure out how to do the 2.0. Okay, yeah, what elements are timeless? Take those elements and then add your sauce, and whatever that is going to be unique unto you, and it's the thing you should really bet on, I feel like, because that's you betting on yourself as opposed to copycatting, because copycatting will get you bust so far. It might get you in the door, but at some point you should have something else to offer.
You won't sustain copying off of other people.
Completely agree.
Is there any unexpected advice, you know, coming up in your careers that you still use to this day, and you know, provide that advice to other students or people that you meet in the industry? Any great advice that you've received?
I think I'll jump in there first. I got bad advice, which is why I try not to give a ton of it. And if I do give it, it's open-ended. Kind of like earlier, I was like, I would never discourage, you know, I never discourage school. But if you do it, you know, I try to keep it flexible enough where, you know, people can wiggle out of it, you know, and later on in life, they're not telling me, Ebony said this, you know.
Yeah.
But the best advice I did get was from Jim Anderson, one of my professors at NYU, but also an incredible multi-Grammy award-winning engineer. He said, you should always be looking to go into an industry to innovate. Never join an industry to just be in it, right? You should be aiming to leave it in better shape than you found it. Yes. And so your ideas should be pushing the boundaries in some way. And really it's your ideas. I mean, granted, there's your productivity and what you can do, but what's more valuable than what comes from your hands is what comes from your mind and your intellectual input when it comes to your industry. So if you see holes that need to be plugged up, or if you see problems that need to be solved, trying to step up and say, I have an answer to this, is, I think, one of the greatest contributions you can make to any industry that you choose to be in, whether it be music or otherwise.
I love it. Love it. I mean, we've all have received and given bad advice, as well as good advice. I mean, there's probably so much. I think, you know, the one thing I said, the only person who knows what works is God. That really helped me get out of the way of myself. If I even just step aside of it, I remember Malik Pendleton told me, treat your money like it's your kids' money. And that was way before I had kids, but it helped me tremendously in understanding that this is the music business. This music money is fast money. It comes fast. And
Wish I heard that early.
Yeah, right. You know, and he said, yo, treat your money like it's your kids' money. You know, you might throw it around a little wilder if it's yours, but if you know little Junior coming up one day gonna need it, you might be a little bit more careful about it, or just be willing to reinvest because you know it's for them. So I remember there's like life-changing moments. That statement changed my life immediately. I wasn't married, I didn't have kids at the time, but it clearly, I saw and understood exactly what he meant, and I was better from it, you know. But yeah, there's so many, there's so much that I've tried to be a sponge as a whole. But yeah, we all wish we had it sooner. That statement.
Yeah. Stephen, what about you? Any bad advice, good advice, advice that you give our mentees?
Yeah, it's all there. I mean, I've had some of the worst advice, and I had some of the best advice, but I think the best advice just came to me one day, and it was operating your purpose. Like, what
Mm,
you understand why you're here. And it's not just in the music industry, not just in teaching, but once you understand why you're here and what you can do with the things that you currently have, not what the things you can do, what you want to get, what you currently have, operating that purpose. And for me, my purpose was helping others, guiding others, just slight course changes to get them to think about other things. And then I thought about my life and I thought, my next good advice to other people is understand the opportunities that are in front of you and
mm,
know and prepare yourself for all opportunities so
mm,
that if something comes along, it could happen for you. Just in my mentor creative coaching class today, I met a kid and he was telling me that, he does graphic arts. I said, hey, that was my first job out of high school. And that was because they messed up my schedule. I wanted to be an architectural drafter in high school. I thought I was going to play for the Washington Redskins as a wide receiver. I wasn't that good. I was terrible. But that graphic arts class, I still use it today to create logos, to do different things for myself. But that took me for a 10-year career to pay for school, to pay for DJ equipment, to pay for drum machines, to pay for everything that I needed to find what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? So understand what's there and act on it. Some things, there were opportunities, Jay-Z had an opportunity for me. I turned around and I actually told him no, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what are you doing? 50 Cent, same thing. I said, no, I just didn't want to get shot, but that's a whole nother story. But it was just like, why did the things that you pass up on, but don't worry about that. God has a way of making sure that we find the things that we need. We're
right.
always given more in abundance of things that we need. We just have to make sure we understand our purpose, grab those things that are within our purpose, and then
Mm,
act on them. And once I started coaching and mentoring and teaching people, I realized that I had been doing that all along.
Mm,
Two female assistant engineers that I had that I love to this day, Lynn Montrose. I wanted her to be one of the best engineers that I had ever seen because I knew she had it in her. But things happened in her life. It didn't work out well for her. And she decided to go a different direction. Actually, she was sexually harassed at the studio,
mm,
which was a problem. And to this day, those people, I still know their faces, I still know their names, and it was terrible. And also, Alexis Seaton, she was one of my best assistants, and helping her as a single mother of a child when she was having issues, and I told her to be the mother that she wants her child to become.
mm.
Her daughter just graduated from Syracuse. I think she's going to graduate school. She has a son she just bought her third house. She worked for Will
Oh, wow.
Smith. So her life just totally took a change for the
mm.
most positive. And you could take all of this down
Mm-hmm.
because just me telling that story gets me emotional.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
it's
that's great.
other stories like that I have, like students that I had at IAR that I talked to, and people I actually fired from being an engineer at daddy's house. And now I see them 20 years later, they're about to retire from the job I told them to go get. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So things, I had a purpose, and I'm trying my best to act on that as much as possible when I can, and take all this down off the wall. Again, I only did this because Amadeus had his up on his wall one day, and I'm like, dude, you can't do this to me. So I don't care about that. And it's back here. Nobody can see this in my house. Nobody. This is my bathroom is here. Like you can't. see this. This is just for me. And it's more about the people. I wish I could put more pictures of people in the comments that they give me 10, 15 years later. Yo, Dent, you know, everybody calls me Dent. Yo, Dent, thanks for telling me this, that, and the third. Or, you know, when can I help you? When can I, you know, pay you back? I say, no, just pay it forward. And all of my people, I cherish that more than anything else. So that's, and I just say, find your purpose. And when you act on it, money is nothing. Like you can't, money is nothing. My son is healthy. My wife is healthy. She keeps me centered and straight. He keeps me centered and straight. I have everything I need. Everything I have now, I try to reach back and help others. Oh, I need money. You know, I need to pay bills. You know, I get the internet. I got to pay that. But other than that, I don't need anything. I mean, I can go to Buster's house and take one of his cars if I need to. I can go to Puff's house, take one of his cars if I need to. But I don't need that. You know, I don't really even want it. Yeah. It's just to be able to create and help others get to that point where they can create and help others to that point where they can get through those times that they need that person to sometimes kick them in the butt, sometimes give them a shoulder to cry on. You know what I mean? And that's, I think finding that purpose meant more to me than anything else.
And that was so beautiful. How do you get in your zone? Where is your most peaceful place to create?
Sitting right here in my underwear eating a bowl of cereal.
Bowl of cereal is important, man.
Yeah,
bowl of cereal is very important.
For me, it doesn't matter. If I hear something, I could be in the middle of making a track for somebody else, and then I'll hear something from what I'm doing and go, wait a minute, oh, I want to do a whole new track. So I just go to another sequence and I'll start something new. Or if I'm mixing a record for somebody and I see an idea that I could make somebody else's vocals better, I'll stop that song, go to another one and just start doing it, you know, adding that one flavor to this new song. It won't work for the song that I'm on, so I got to go to another song to make it work. So it really doesn't matter. I'm just, when it hits you, it hits you. Sometimes I won't touch this stuff for 2-3 weeks. And then other times I'm here for 2-3 months, just sitting here in my underwear with a bowl of cereal.
He's in his underwear right now too.
No, I got a pants.
All right, real quick. This is probably the most important question. So I'll start with you, Ebony. What's the cereal? What's the choice? 3 o'clock in the morning, finishing up the song. Cereal.
Yeah, it's usually Cheerios. Just plain,
plain Cheerios, really?
Okay.
Yeah. It's because my diet is weird though, so
I got you.
Plain Cheerios, almond milk.
Nice. Okay, I'm with you on the almond milk. What about you then?
All right, see, I got 3. And I put them in the bowl at the same time. I'm sorry. I got Golden Grams. I got crispy wheats and raisins, or crunchy raisin bran, whichever one I got. Okay. And Apple Jacks. Put all 3 of them in a bowl. You with almond milk.
What's the last one?
Apple Jacks.
Apple Jacks. Wow,
that's a throwback.
I was just about to say that. I didn't know you could still get Apple Jacks.
Oh, Apple Jacks. Yeah. We got some upstairs. It's killing. That's a must.
Apple Jacks is like a classic. That's the last of the little boxes that no one eats, though.
Yeah, when I come back from the diabetes clinic, then you know.
I love it.
What's yours, E?
Apple Jacks is up there.
Okay.
That almond milk after you let that cereal soak in it for a minute. Listen. But my number one is Fruity Pebbles. You gotta knock it out real quick.
That's my wife.
It's soggy quick, so you gotta knock that joint out real quick. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is up there. Apple Jacks. I mean, I'm all the way across.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Golden Grams. Either if I have one of them two, I'm good.
Yeah, but 3 o'clock. You know, you just finished a session, or you need to take a little break. Go upstairs, get a little almond milk, knock out a bowl of cereal, listen to what you like. Yeah, we good. It help you get that next couple of hours out. You knock it out. Yo, I know people watching this are so mad. They're like, I know they did not just spend 5 minutes talking about cereal.
But it's important.
It's important. It's
Yeah.
very
It's
important.
important. Like what
On the
gets you
spot.
going, what gets you like motivated. Snacks gets you motivated to do like what you love. So I love that
And
question.
and what, like, sometimes in the studio, like when, working with, like when I work with Mario Winans, I mean, we together we are called the Snack Kings. Because if we go to the store, we bring back the worst food in the world. Some people got the munchies. We just like snacks. You know what I mean? Like we just have a whole table full of everything that's bad for you. And we could sit in the studio for about 2, 3 more hours. And his wife is calling him, my wife is calling me. I'm like, I already ate. Don't worry about it. But snacks help.
Snacks
Yes,
help. Yes.
definitely.
Best advice of the day. Snacks help.
Best
Snacks help.
advice.
Snacks keep the world going.
Yeah. When all else is going bad, eat a snack. You'll feel better.
Snacks, you can always snack. Snacks.
Oh gosh. Okay, I have another question from one of our attendees. How do you know if and when you should align yourself with a record label or a publisher?
I'll jump in real quick. I'll jump in. Well, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Learn the business. Understand the business. When you can't do something for yourself, that's when. Because the label only wants you when you don't need them. A publishing company only wants you when you don't need them. And that's
So I caught the Holy Ghost over here when you said that. I caught the Holy Ghost over here.
That's the word right there.
That's a word.
Like, okay, yeah.
Like, only when you don't need them is when you know.
That's when they want you. So, and if you learn to do it for yourself, even if you sign with the label and you learn to do it for yourself, you learn the rights that you have. Like the first lesson I teach in my music business class is you are a business. Learn to negotiate as a business. If you come to the table with no negotiations, you're walking in like this, oh sir, please. Yeah. But if you understand the business and you can negotiate and you have something to negotiate, make sure you put your hand out, make them shake your hand. And now they know they have to negotiate with you. And they only want you really when you can do things for yourself. And now with the technology that's out there, you only need them if you want them. And that's just the simple fact of it right now for me. I tell everybody to do it yourself. And then, that's the point, I'm sorry. If you learn the business and once you get in a label, if you decide to go to a label, even an indie label, you know what to expect. You know what they're supposed to do. You know what each department is supposed to handle. And you can actually say, no, I don't want you to put my money here because I have to pay back this high risk loan at some point. You're going to recoup this from me. You're going to take this money back from me. So help me better by putting it here because this is where my audience is. Understand I don't need to do a show in Milwaukee. I need to do a show in Cleveland. You know what I mean? And once you learn how to manage yourself, promote yourself, market yourself, that's when you can go, okay, I can't do anything better for myself. Let me find someone else that can help me do that.
Right. And Eric, you're known for being, indie. What is your take on that? And how have you maintained that for so long?
Well, the industry changes. The industry changes drastically immediately, but it's going to change every almost 5 to 2 years. So the business plans you had, the marketing idea you had 2 years ago, you might throw that joint in the trash and come up with something new because it's ever changing. So it is good to kind of have that kind of idea if you are going to a publishing company, if you are going to a record label, that you have some kind of idea of what is going to work, and hopefully that they're doing that as well. When you align yourself with a publishing company, and this is a tricky question because this stuff is so ever changing, but a lot of times for me, it has to do with who's in the room. If I trust somebody there, if I believe in somebody there, or if I feel somebody believes in me there. I did a lot of work, let's just say with Def Jam Records at a time when I was working a lot at Def Jam because I knew all the A&Rs there. We were really, really cool, and they trusted me. I trusted them. Now, mind you, you walk in one day and they're not there no more, right? So hopefully they landed another spot and it's like, all right, now I'm going to Virgin or whatever the situation is. But a lot of times I'm going to line myself up with good people. I trust my spidey sense. And if something is giving me a bad vibe, I'm not staying there. I'm not staying at all. But at the same time, every single person you see on the charts is doing something, whether indie or major, they're rolling their sleeves up and they really busting their tail. You got to realize that. And there's a sense of trying to understand where things are going. We're in a pandemic. I'm going to say we're over a pandemic. Things technology wise, music wise are shifting, and you have to have your ear on it to say, am I going to benefit from these changes, or am I going to get lost in, am I Netflix or my blockbusters? You know what I mean? So you got to adapt to where things are going. And at the same time, for me, I've always been like, I'd rather bet on my own money. I'd rather bet on my own chances. I'm not really a fan too much of like giving up the control of what's happening next. Pay too much attention to what's changing. And I have no problem getting things wrong. I have no problem of saying, well, that was wrong. That cost me a lot of money. But, what's up, Dan?
No, I'm saying, like, that's what they're going to do anyway.
That's what they're going to take a chance. They're going to take a risk. Yeah.
They're going to risk your money that you have to pay back to them. And there's no penalty for them losing your money. And when you sign on the line, what people don't understand, you lose almost 90% of what you could earn. It's like 86%, because the most you can get from a label is what, 14%? And that's if you're a top artist, 14%. And that's 14% after recoupment. So you have to pay back. If you have a $2 million budget, you have to make $2 million of record sales.
Yeah.
Before you can make 14 cents on the dollar. And then they're taking a percentage of the 14 cents you make after you've recouped. So it's a loser's game. But if you are that artist that needs that push, again, understand the business, understand that you can go from zero to hero in a matter of hours, but you can almost do that on your own now with all the social media.
Yeah, and different applications as well.
Yep. And there are independent marketing companies, publishing companies, and everything that's out there that you can align yourself with to start, get your feet wet before you decide to do that big deal. Publishing admin is always good, but make sure they're in the right avenue for what you have.
And what I will say, and really speaking from an independent standpoint, just be, or shall I say, the Libra in me, you got to really take a minute, right? You really got to take a minute and really define what your success, what you want, or how you see a success. So if you want 18 cars down the driveway, if you want to be that big pop artist, if you want, like, unapologetically go after that, record labels can work for some people. I'm one of, you should not wait for that. Or at the point where you're about to go back to Columbus, Ohio and start doing construction, no, shoot your shot in another way. But if your idea is to go to a label, if you don't feel like you'll wear that many hats and have that many stuff, and you need a marketing team and A&Rs, you need all that stuff, then go get it. Know what you want. Don't chase after somebody else's idea of success. Chase after yours. And unapologetically, whatever that is, I want to be the next Michael Jackson. Find yourself a glove, fam. Find yourself a glove. But whatever it's going to be, like, be that. You have to. Okay, wait. So so real quick, are we all Libras here? Are you a Libra as well, Dan?
Yes, September 30th.
That's crazy. It was September 30th. So when's your birthday, Ebony?
Didn't hear you.
27.
20. So I'm wrong on Wikipedia. Mine is actually the 26th.
Oh.
All right, so we're gonna do this panel again next year on our birthdays. It'll be the birthday.
Yes.
So Danielle, listen.
I'm gonna throw this week Libras.
I'm gonna throw this computer screen.
All three y'all are Libras, really?
Danielle, you're not a Libra? What's going on?
No, I'm a Taurus.
Bye.
Well, but that's okay.
Yes,
That's okay, because
Stephen,
Libras and Tauruses work.
Yes, I love Libra.
Y'all are the Libras of the spring.
Way to fix
I
it,
love
Ebony. Way to fix
Libras.
it. Wait, I love it. With a Libra.
I vibe with Libras
Wow, that's
now.
great.
Well, I guess that's why I picked all three.
There we
And
go.
I realized that.
Half of my close friends, I have Tauruses and Sagittarius, all my close friends.
Yeah, we're good people.
I love
Stop hating, Steve.
I love it.
I'm a hater.
We have another question from one of our attendees. If my music is mainly on Bandcamp, how much do I need to worry about clearing samples at this stage?
If it's mine, all the time.
You got hit. You got hit a couple times, then.
I'm gonna say that, yes.
I mean, on Bandcamp,
And
I
those
don't think
good songs too.
I don't think they have to worry too much if it's on Bandcamp. I don't think you have to worry too much. I mean, listen.
Well, you do want to make sure it's protected. So, but if you're getting a sample, I don't know if that you could easily contact the producers to whatever sample you're using through your PRO, or is public knowledge on BMI or ASCAP. And you just email them or use Harry Fox to get
my thing is always do your business first, because I didn't do my business first. I learned the hard way that you do your business first. If you don't do your business first, now you're going to have to chase the business, because you could be someone could be giving you the business because you didn't do your business. So do your business first. Even if you just have the sample stuff aligned, you make sure you write everything down, you know what you sampled from, you know how much you sampled, what record, publishing company, record label, all the writers that are on
the percentages, and
find all of that stuff, have that stuff ready.
And know the actual government names of the people
Some of
you're
us,
working with.
We don't have the resources to go out and pay for samples, to go to Harry Fox and pay $1,500 for a sample that's going to sit on YouTube and do 200 views, or your mans and them are going to get on it and do a mixtape and put it on Bandcamp. But if you have the information, at least when something comes to you, now you can say, okay, here's the information, let me go ahead and take care of it. But don't just go, well, it's a sample, it's not going nowhere. You don't know. Tomorrow, like what would you say, E? Only God knows.
Only God knows.
That one record that you did not think was going to be anything, like we said, could blow up. Once it blows up, now there's millions of dollars riding on. I've seen this happen with they, instead of getting their pennies right, they waited until it's $1 million, and then they have to argue about $1 million, and everybody loses. You know what I mean? So again, that was one thing that happened to me. Somebody took a song from me, but I used the sample. I knew who the sample was. They had no clue who the sample was. Next thing I know, it's on the album. The album is out. And I said, that's my track, right? He said, yeah, but it's a sample. You can't. I said, all right, go ahead. So I shut up. The label couldn't get paid. The artist couldn't get paid. The writer couldn't get paid. The producer couldn't get paid.
Goodness gracious.
We could all got paid if you just listen. So you know everything, go do it.
It's good to have a studio journal too. That's one of the biggest things that's really helpful. Now we have computers and stuff, but if you're doing so many songs, it's going to be hard to remember who did what 2 years ago, what patch you use, what sample you use, who wrote on what. It's always good to kind of just talk this. It's not a bad thing to talk splits. It's not a bad thing to kind of just talk who did what
early,
especially when you collaborate
early and know their names. And is that a job of like the engineer or the producer to know like the specific splits going into finalizing the song?
Whoever's and don't when I work my partner worked with Denise Rich. He was signed to her publishing company. Quick story, I'm sorry, I gotta tell this one. So he had another writer. We were working on another song, but Denise came in and said, hey, I need to write this song with you real quick. It's for Celine Dion. I said, okay. And she said, okay, you can engineer. And the other writer was sitting on the couch. So we're working, and then they're singing the song. And then the other writer said, la, 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 like trying to add something in. Denise stopped. She came over, stopped the record, said, baby, you got to go. Because everyone that's in that room can actually claim part of your copyright. If they say, I hummed a tune while they were writing that song because I was in the room. They tried to sue us probably 5 times at Bad Boy because people said they were in the studio and somebody used my name one time and it went to court. I said, okay, yeah, let's have this go to court. So we went to court. We had to argue, like, I would never put you in a room with Puff. First of all, he was on tour. How could you be in a room with him if you're here with me? You know what I mean? So make sure you know who you're writing with. And if you have an agreement with the people that you're writing with, do it early. Even if me and E go in the room, I'm gonna say, E, you got, you're the writer, you get the percentage. Let me just get this a little bit. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? And work it out early before, like I said, argue over pennies, not millions. Because millions, somebody's gonna die. Pennies, you're just gonna be mad at your man. That's all. You got 3 more pennies.
I remember when I was working at BMI, I would always it was always hip hop music or R&B music where it was like backtracking to see what splits or who were the people. And then that song was withheld because we don't know the proper splits, and this person thinking they get more than the other person, or even dealing with the estate account was a headache too. So just make sure that your business is together, like Stephen is saying.
Totally agree.
We have a question for Ebony. What is something artists who are producers should get together in the DAW before bringing your creations to an engineer? How did you find your voice as an engineer, and what are some of the tools that helped to elevate your sound and technique in the DAW?
Okay, let me just read it. So what are
it's in the Q&A.
Artists who are producers should get together in DAW before bringing a creation to an engineer? I'm not sure I entirely understand the question. I guess, are you asking what should you prepare before you send something for mixing?
We have Lola still here. If Lola wants to ask that, we can allow her to speak.
Is that correct? You said yes in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, Lola, I'm gonna allow you to speak.
Come on, Lola's one of my former students.
Lola.
Lola, great artist as well.
Welcome to the virtual stage. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys
Lola.
doing?
Great. What is your question exactly for Ebony?
Yeah, sorry, it was hard to type. It's hard to type. It's kind of confusing. So I was asking Ebony and Stephen and Teach, you can pop into. But yeah, just what are some things that you should prepare for an engineer, like before you send, like you said, before you send off your creation? What are some things that we should be able to have together, so as an engineer you're not, oh, now I got to do this and that, and that's not extra work for an engineer.
And I'll add one more thing also. If would you want everything dry? If they had effects on certain things, would you prefer it dry, or would you have to have like side notes of what they did to their kick? Would you want to hear a reference track of what they did? I guess that's part I'm adding to her question as well. Or would you rather just be dry and then you kind of add your creativity and make adjustments from there?
You're on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, Ebony.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so I'm actually attempting to locate my mix prep document so we can just go over that.
Come on, mix prep
share my screen.
Yes.
Come on,
resources.
Come on, mix
document. Come on, documents.
So Lola, are you currently in school now?
And I will.
Lola, you still there?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I graduated Berkeley. Eric is he's my mentor. So I intern with him now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just graduated.
Okay. So you just graduated. So you are working independently as a producer and a songwriter and artist, and you got the song ready with your collaborators, and now it's time to reach out to somebody to mix it. Does not matter what level the engineer is, if they are major, award-winning, Grammys falling from the ceiling, or if they're just starting out. This is a really good rubric for how to think about preparation. So the first thing I have here is I like to receive stems, which means that I want a printout of your multi-track, each multi-track element. So if you got 10 guitars, maybe make that one stem, just consolidate those and make that one two track left and right, and maybe just send me that whole thing. If you have gone through this painstaking labor of finding the tones that you like, I want to preserve that, which means that I don't want to start from the ground up. That also kind of speaks a little bit to what you were asking me, Eric, about whether I want things wet or dry. I'm going to answer that last, but let's just know that I personally prefer stems, which also means that I don't want your session, right? So if you made everything in Pro Tools and you got all these plugins and all these third-party beat making sense, everything, I don't want any of that. You should have committed to those sounds. I might not have all those plugins that you have. So making stems fixes all that information. So it preserves the sonics in a way that ensures that we're not limited because of whatever software I do have. Also take note of the specification here, which has to do with how I want files to be delivered. This is called lossless. That's a technical term. Don't worry too much about that. Just, what that means is it's high resolution. This is typically a good resolution, which means it's 24 bit is a high amplification option. And we're gonna go into how that is arrived at in a computational way, because we don't have a lot of time to talk about sampling and quantization. But bit depth just pertains to how much amplitude resolution you have, and your sample, this is your sample rate right here, which is 48 kilohertz per second, which means that that's a high resolution when it comes to sample rate. So I want this ideally, and you can export your stems according to this. Next thing, I'll try to blow through this real quick. Sorry guys, but you did ask. So
no, work.
Try to blow through this. The second thing I have here is that I want everything labeled properly. Don't send me take 3, take 5. Like, you know, you need to have organized your stems that you're sending me in a coherent way. And then I have this note, please send all vocal stems wet and dry. And that's what Eric was talking about with respect to sending the files with no effects whatsoever, no reverb, no delay, no chorus, no none of that. But also send it with it. So I can use that if I'd like to, or I could try to reproduce it if I like to in my own way, but still preserves the sonics that you found. I'm not tuning anything, absolutely nothing. If you haven't tuned it, it's not ready to sing. That's really not a mixing engineer's responsibility. So make sure all the auto tune has been fixed and printed, so forth and so on. All stems are at the same time point. So don't send your stems mixed all across the timeline. They should all be starting at 0. You know, sometimes when you print your stems, they may start at different points. So when you import your stems just to check them, you want to make sure that all of the elements are lined up accordingly, and there's no phasing issues, which, you know, have to do with, like, you know, micro differences in time and variations in time. Please do not use expiring links like WeTransfer and things like that. Don't do that. Organize everything in one folder so I can find it. And please deliver files lossless. We talked about that. No MP3s, please. Like no MP4s or you know, just is lossless formats, waves or AIFF. I went over don't deliver the Pro Tools files or whatever. And then to send a reference mix of whatever you made. So these are, like, for me, if you can do all that, that was like 10 points. If you can do all that and you know you're at that point within the production process, then that's pretty much how you want to send everything over, I think, to a mixing engineer. Some engineers may want your session. They may want everything with all the comps and playlists and everything. Some of them might. I don't want any of that. I just want to be
Okay.
able to, I want you to have made all your decisions. You've made all your decisions. And if I need to make some changes just for the purpose of Sonics to preserve or to do anything corrective, then that's one thing, but I don't want to be reproducing your track. So all your decisions need to be kind of formalized and finalized.
For me, mine really depends on who I'm getting the information from. If it's an outside client that I don't know, everything Ebony said 1,000,000%. Even if it's some of the people that I know, everything Ebony said 100%. Certain production partners that I have, I think I've taught them well enough to have, when they send me a session, I know exactly what it is because I taught them how to set up their session. I taught them how to label their things. Some still don't label, which, you know, is what it is. But I know their style of production. I know their style of writing. I know how they record the vocals. I know everything that they're doing because I taught them most of it. So if it's a few of those people, they can send, when they say, I need you to mix this song, they're sending me exactly what I know, exactly what I need. If it's an outside client, everything Ebony said, 1,000,000%. So I'm with it. The only thing is if you have a comp guitar, I probably wouldn't want that. I would want each individual guitar. Just in my mind, my maniac mind, I can make a blend better than they can. Even if they love what they did, I can make them love mine more. And that's just the way I feel. I can make your baby love me more than he loves you. That's just my mind. That's me.
So what do you mean
those tracks.
specifically? What do you mean specifically by like comp? And are you saying it
If you
blends?
have multiple, yeah, if you have multiple guitars on a, you know, and that you're using multiple guitars and you blended them together, even if they're just, you didn't mean to probably put them together, but you have an acoustic guitar, you have an electric guitar, you have a muddy guitar, you have a distorted guitar, that's all guitar. So you could probably comp those together in a guitar stereo track, boom. If you have a bunch of background vocals, harmonies up, down, left, right, whatever you're doing, you can comp those together and have all harmonies. So that's what it means by having a comp track. And even your lead vocals, if you take different takes and you, instead of muting them out on one track, muting it on another track, muting it on another track, you blend it all together and you do a comp track.
Right. Okay. I understand. Thank you guys so much.
Comp is short for composite.
Composite. I was gonna say compilation, but I knew that was wrong. So
Thank you. So that was actually my first part of the question. My second part was how did, and this can be for Ebony and Stephen, how did you guys find your voice as engineers? Especially for Ebony as a Black woman, because I am a Black woman with your similar skin tone, who does produce and, you know, who is multi-hyphenate as you are. Find that voice in that, like you said, male-dominated industry. And for both of you guys, what are just some tools that helped you guys along the way to elevate your sound and technique? Like, oh, this was a lifesaver. I wish I could have got this at this time, you know, when I started or something like that.
Great questions.
Ebony?
Yeah, those are really great. I'll start off with mine. So here you using voice in two different ways. So there's voice as an engineer and producer, and then there's voice in terms of my actual sense of autonomy.
Come on.
She preaching.
Yeah, she froze.
Affinity for look like me. I think I'll start with the latter. So in terms of finding a voice, I think that happened very early in life. My parents have to take quite a bit of the credit. They did a lot when I was little just to make sure that I felt a sense of pride. And my family is a very strong and prideful Black family, not prideful in a negative sense, but we're very proud to be a family. We have family reunions. We are very supportive of each other. No family is perfect, but we spend a lot of time building ourselves up. And we have a rich family history. So I was never quite looking for an entry. One of my affirmations is winners aren't overly or fixated on the opinions of others. Sometimes I'm like just in the car and I'm just saying it over and over again to myself. And you'd be surprised how one can train the mind to be resilient, because so many things creep up, and I don't want to make any present any falsehood, make it seem like I haven't dealt with those things. There is psychological depression, there is imposter syndrome, there are these things that creep up, but having a resilient mind and really training that mind little by little every day through how you program it and what you tell to yourself. I've never felt disenfranchised, at risk, underdeveloped. I've never felt any of those labels that sometimes get put on Lola. I've never felt those things in my person as a time. I've never self-defined in that way. And I think that's important to do, just as a self-affirmation. In terms of finding my voice as an engineer, I'm still working through that, right? Because as so many of us have said on the panel, the styles change every 6 months, especially if you're working in any form of Black music, which most popular music is derivative of Black music, the music that comes from our churches and our communities. So you can't keep up with us. Like, we're always, changing and redefining and reimagining and reappropriating everything that is cultural for us, whether it's language or music or art or whatever. So one as person as an artist, as a musician, is taking cues from the world, as well as attempting to take stock of what's happening internally. So there's always a back and forth, an ebb flow with that for me as I'm developing as a musician, as an engineer. But the biggest thing for me is just to continue to learn and study, because engineering is a study for me. Like, it's like I'm constantly in school. I've been out of school for a lot of years. I'm constantly learning. So with each new thing I learn, I add a little bit more to my unique mosaic and my unique approach as an artist, as an engineer. So I guess that's a long way of saying I'm still figuring it out in terms of my voice.
Thank you so much.
You want? Oh, yeah.
There is another question in regards to Ebony, because, since you are a female audio engineer, a lot of people have a lot of questions about, sexual harassment, or how have you been able to deal with those negative, men that you may come across of while working?
What's funny is my relationship to like Time's Up and Me Too has always been that of solidarity with the movement, because women definitely need to stand tall together. But I've always had a sense of distance, because for the longest time I assumed that nothing like that had ever happened to me. And it really wasn't until like earlier this year that I remember, but for the longest time I was just like, wow, I can't believe women go through that. I was like, wait a minute. That one time in Brooklyn, at that studio in the middle of the night, I went through the same thing. And I think so often we block it out,
Good Lord.
as a means of moving forward, because I was so tunnel vision. I was gonna get it, and nothing was going to stop me. So I had the inverse reaction that a lot of women have. A lot of women will either stop and quit, or they will turn inward and find some sort of strength from denial. And I think that's what happened to me. And I literally realized this a couple months ago, you know? So it's been a psychological struggle. I'm not gonna lie about the journey that I've had to take and how I've just kind of viewed it as keeping it moving. Because that's how we kind of psychologize or intellectualize that, keeping it moving. Like you have to focus on whatever goals that you set for yourself. And so you're just not gonna be phased, but you are phased. You're just not allowing yourself to deal with it. And it's unfortunate that so many women's careers have been derailed that way. And if their careers weren't derailed, their psychological health and emotional health was compromised, even though their professional life was not affected necessarily. So, and I can say that has been the case for me. However, as far as like my response to that, I think what has helped me a lot is the nonprofit that I founded when I was still in college called Gender Amplified. And we support women music producers and audio engineers. Actually, the title of my senior thesis in college as well, that I wrote on women producers in hip hop. So it's through that work, I think, that has kept me going and has given me an opportunity to right a lot of the wrongs as far as safe space is concerned and opportunities for professional development are concerned when it comes to women and girls and non-binary people, because you'd be surprised what trans women go through as well, and trans men as well, making their way in the game as producers. So we are looking very actively at ways that we can address the issues that so many cisgender women go through, and using my career as a bit of a blueprint from which to draw inspiration for change and inspiration for programs and projects that attempt to alleviate some of this strain or at least address it to some degree. Yeah, I think that has kept me like emotionally and like psychologically in a space of healing.
Yeah, creating a safe space for, you know, women or non-binary individuals is very important. Is there any way, if we did put the website in the chat, so hopefully our attendees could research that a little bit more when you do have some events coming up. I know that you've done things over like the summer. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, right now we are in our fundraising season. It's the end of our fiscal year, actually in a couple more weeks. So we've been in fundraising mode for 2022, but come next year, we have plans to do a series of production camps. We always do a handful each year. So we do those in collaboration with Warner Music Group and Atlantic Records. And the idea behind our camps is to open the doors for producers in our community to get on projects that they ordinarily would not even know about, to kind of open the doors a bit so that they can professionalize themselves by collaborating, and also to foster dialogue across the gender lines. I think it's very important that we have support from our male allies, and largely because, I mean, there's just such a wealth of information among the guys. And I think it's one of the things that makes the communities of men as strong as they are, because men like each other and they share information freely. And you know, when you go to AES or NAM, it's people call it a bro fest, but what you're really looking at is men that like each other and want to be in community with each other, growing each other and sharing resources. You don't see a lot of competitive energy, and I think the guys are are growing together. So I think there's a lot of information that can be shared with women to help us grow and develop in the craft that most of us are just kind of entering in drove now, right? Because in the past, you go to AES, you might see a woman every 10 minutes, if that often, or NAM or wherever, so, but now it's like in mass, you see the organizations are out and women are very active on the floor. So that's new. That's like within the last 10 years. So there's some growth and catching up there that we're doing. And I think male allies are aiding in that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just gained 2 additional allies here.
I was about to say, you got one here.
You stop so I can say, how can I be down? Like,
say less. I mean, we can get y'all doing some workshops and we can get y'all on some panels. I mean,
and also one of my students from NJ Pack from last fall, Gia, now transgender.
Okay.
I just heard the illest track.
Really?
He did. I mean, when I'm on the phone like, who is Little Nas X with? Because I just figured that would be a perfect lane for that. And I mean, that beat, when I heard it, I'm like, oh Jesus. I mean, I sat here and I was happy because that was my people, and even before the transformation, I called them G, just because I knew what was going on. I could feel what was going on. But then when he actually made that, when G made that decision, that track, I'm telling you, was super
winner.
hot.
And I think it speaks volumes to the reality that, music making is genderless.
It is.
It doesn't matter. You think Little Nas X is gonna hear that and go, what gender of the person? Like,
right.
No, like,
right. No.
If it's hot, it's hot. And that's why there has to be a level playing field with respect to people who get an opportunity to play their music for these artists, because I think we're missing out on a lot. Just in the years that I've been doing Gender Amplified, which is really all of my career, I've come across a lot of artists that, have very alternative ways of thinking about music, but it's dope, like they're just, self-actualizing through the music, and it's dope, but it has no outlet, so it doesn't have the opportunity to change the charts, because it never gets an opportunity to be broadcast. And that has to do more so with access than it does with actual talent or giftedness, so if we can deal with this access issue, then maybe some of these other sounds could start floating to the top.
Yeah, and also I want to shout out, since we are talking about our hip hop and culture students, that we do have like a small music library of their production. So the intro video that we shared this before the start of the show is music from our students. So shout out to them. And again, there is one last question because we're a little over time.
Can I jump in real quick? I'm sorry, real quick. I'm enormously inspired by what Ebony was saying. In general, I always tell students, and I want to tell everyone here, if you're entering the industry, you are in control of what the industry is about to do for the next 20 years. And I speak for me and Dent. I think Ebony is a little bit younger than he and I. We were responsible for what the industry did for the last 20 years. But not just for how the music sounds, but how the business is operated. And I will say, especially teaching at Berkeley now, I'm amazed. I'm so awake to how discouraging male producers have been to female producers, and it's been a disservice to the industry as a whole, just like she said. And it's just even the simplest thing of like, you to be surprised that a woman could make a dope beat. You're like, oh, you produce? It's like, how condescending is that, right? It's like, just stop being whack, right? I mean, now, not just the poor history of sexual harassment inside studios. We just have to be better. We have to be better. And I would love to kind of inject that into the youth who are going to control the next 20 years. You have a chance of changing how this business has worked, how the royalty rates could be fairer, and as well as how women and also transgender people can be treated equal in these environments is very, very important. So I just want to make sure I say that. And she said, say less, so I am joining up. Let me know what I need to do.
Yeah, Danielle, can we all maybe follow up on an email after?
Of course. I'm going to also I want to ask you about that that resource that you shared with us, if that is okay, if I can have it and share with the attendees. And I'll definitely have you all link up via email so you can exchange information. I want to get to Mercedes' question. She says, hi, thank you guys so much for your time. If you're a songwriter and really interested in pitching songs to major artists, what are some good first steps for outreach? Is a music manager more helpful in being taken seriously for these endeavors?
I would say the first thing I would say is cut as many songs you can on as many people. And I know you're trying to get on a major artist, but like I said, cut your homies, cut the girl that's killing at church, cut as many things so that you can, when you present to a major, they can also see you of some level of value. And I hate to put it that way, but guess what? When you run into Rihanna and you have a chance to play something for her team, they're first trying to figure out how you got in the room. You know what I mean? So all this work that I've done has gotten me into the room. Yes, I mean, it ranges from different things. It's great to play it for the artist. A lot of times the things that I've placed, even the early work, when I ran into 112, I just pulled a guitar out and just played it for them. It might not have been the most politically correct thing, but guess what? They were like, yo, that was dope. We want it. All right, let's hit record. You know what I mean? So if you can get in a position where you could play it for a manager who has their ear, if you could play it for the artist or play it for the A&R, but get into the spirit of pitching. Understand that majority of the time that you pitch, the answer is going to be no. So toughen up and be ready for that. Like, don't let that discourage your energy and excitement about what you created, so pitch it. And at the same time, more importantly, if you pitching something to somebody, you got to show them how you feel about it. Like, don't be pitching it all nervous and all, it's like Kanye. Show me that it moves you. Show me that this is it, so that they have a chance to learn. Because the first person they're looking at you, like how you respond to it. And they see you moving right to it, they're like, oh, okay, that's how we do, so, but at the same time, it'd be great to pitch to the big dogs, but it's like a steps, like pitch to your homies. Pitch to your environment so that you climb up and get to there. It very rarely works that way where the first person you pitch into is Usher. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. It may happen, but more than likely, if you are in spirit, by the time you are pitching to that major artist, you're in style, you're in spirit of that. You have the confidence and the swag to really back it up. More times than not, it's not the song that landed, it's you, how you felt about it. When you press play, you was like, I got you, so work your way into that room.
Yes, I love that. And I think this has been like an amazing conversation. I again want to thank everybody for, donating. This is a pay what you can panel. So again, thank you for all of the attendees that are here that stayed throughout the almost 2 hours. Again, the panelists, Ebony, Stephen, Eric, all the Libras, thank you so much. I didn't know that was the vibe today. It has really been so amazing for you all to like understand what the Creators Room is about and really just dive in and give advice, give that bad advice, don't take advice, and also providing these resources that we all, probably our students, our emerging talent are looking for, or people that are just interested in learning the behind the scenes of it all. So again, I appreciate you. And I do want to to give you the floor for each of you to promote anything that you're working on. I know we talked about Gender Amplify, so I'm really excited for Stephen and Eric to collaborate with Ebony with that for future endeavors. I'll just give you both, give you all the floor.
Yeah, I mean, genderamplified.org is my life's purpose. It really is. I don't know, it's my God work, and it's all about giving to people who have not had a voice, and it's given me so much joy, because otherwise you're just in the music industry chasing money all the time, you know, or chasing opportunities or going what's next. It's a form of tithe for me. Gender Amplified, it's an emotional tithe and monetary tithe. So it's my heart. So if you want to check us out, genderamplified.org, please follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll keep you posted on new things as they come up.
Thank you so much. Stephen, what about you?
Studio to Stage Productions in Englishtown, New Jersey.
Yes.
Full
Jersey.
ready to go studio with, we teach lessons, all kinds of instruments, vocalists, drums, whatever.
Yeah, you can host your podcast there, right? Come
there.
on now.
We do everything there, music production. You want to buy some songs, whatever, just come through. It's I think they're going to post that in the chat somewhere, the information. Also, the NJ Pack music production, hip hop immersive classes that we have are great. If you know any young New Jersey kid, I don't even think they have to be in New Jersey anymore, but just
if we keep this virtual thing going, we've been reaching a lot of people.
And also the Grammy Museum. I teach a music production class at the Grammy Museum in Newark. So
awesome.
Anything, if you have any younger or aspiring people that want to get into the business or get into music, get them into one of the programs, and just give them an opportunity, because you know that's what I want to do. They may be the next person to change the world with their sound. So let's go. We need that.
Yes, and also in addition to that, Stephen is the mentor for our NJPAC students. So shout out to those
creative coaching.
Creative coaching. And we also have a program called In the Mix, or is a social justice lens, ran by our students. So shout out to all of our NJPAC arts education students. We love you and we're always pushing for you. And I'll have Eric end it off with whatever you would like to promote.
Man, Lessons is out. My new song is we talk about lessons. So amen. Go stream it. Go whatever you need to do. And the remix just dropped not too long ago, featuring my good friends Anthony Hamilton, Kevin Ross, and Raheem Devine. But at the end of the day, man, just stay encouraged, and you know, focus on the process more than the product. You know, focus on the process of this. Enjoy the journey. I just started reading Will Smith's book. The intro is worth it. Whether you read anything, read the first intro where he talks about building a wall for his dad. And he said the wall like it was impossible, but his dad said, focus on the bricks, focus on the brick by brick by brick. And I was like, man, I could put the book down now. I don't even need to read it. So I wish all of you to just focus on each brick that you're building on, and just every day, every conversation that we're doing right now, focus on that. And you'll realize how much you built, you know. So we just appreciate y'all. I have a thing called The Process. If you want to see the process of everything we do, go to jointheprocess.com. Jointheprocess.com. You're more than welcome.
Yes, and Eric is also doing something with Jimmy Fallon that's coming out pretty soon.
The TV show That's My Jam comes out in November, hosted by Jimmy Fallon. So that's going to be pretty fun as well.
Yeah, I wish I could tell. I'm doing music for a TV show. It's like The Voice, it's like The Four, but I can't say anything yet.
I understand. I understand.
Well, you heard it here first. If you look
I'll
at the
let you know.
credits, my thing is always read the credits. So if you happen to come across a new show on NBC and you see Steven's
I
name,
didn't say
you
NBC.
heard it here
I didn't
first. Or if it was ABC or CBS, all of those channels. Definitely get familiar with all of these their names and read the credits. Eric will be with us in person February 26, 2022. I'm excited for that. Maybe we could actually meet.
I forgot to hit my button. You told me.
Yeah, you gotta drop bombs and
Yeah,
stuff.
I gotta drop bombs on that. We see y'all, NJ Pack. We coming. We coming.
We need the burn, burn, burn.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. We here.
Yes. Let's do a quick screenshot. So let's smile. 1, 2, 3.
No.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
And,
I'm late for a session. I got to.
All right, I appreciate y'all.
With
And
Mary
you'll get the
Brown,
recording
so
and I'll email everybody. Have a good night.
Look forward to it. Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
y'all. Be safe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.